interfacing. Like, for example, all of our water is, I don't know if you've seen it around, but you will see it, is Wanderlust branded bottles. And they're actually compostable bottles developed by a company called Nature's Bottles that's, I think, based out of San Francisco. They make compostable, it's a technology to make compostable plastic. They source the water locally, so they actually, the shipping doesn't require nearly as much fossil fuel because they're shipping much lighter containers. It doesn't have the water in it. So they have all these different places where they can source the water locally. Then we actually have volunteers stationed at all of our waste spots where we have composting and recycling and regular garbage. And we're actually clipping the top, the little plastic rings off each top. We take those bottles, we hire a composting company that actually comes and takes it off-site. So you know, that is something that we've done. It's not cheap, but it's something that's very important. We also did a deal with Clean Canteen that provided us with a tremendous amount of branded canteen bottles, and we're urging everyone, you know, to obviously use filling stations instead of, you know, buying plastic bottles. That's like obviously a big thing. One thing is like relates to also our power. Because we're at the mountain, we can actually draw off their power, which means we don't have to use a lot of diesel for generators, and that's very different from a lot of festivals. You know, there's some other things that are kind of maybe more silly but represent effort, which is like all of our staff shirts are actually made from plastic water bottles, and that's why they have the odd tint that they might otherwise not have. But they actually shred these bottles, and they kind of make some sort of combed polyester, and our staff is wearing those. I'm trying to think, I mean, we're offering sort of a carbon offset program, and it's amazing the amount of percentage of people that bought a ticket that also bought the carbon offset, especially in the yoga world. It was like 50% or something. I mean, don't quote me on that actually, but we'll release those numbers. But it's, I mean, it's amazing. You know, it's like, you know, I think we will surpass any other festival in that respect in terms of the people that actually came, that decided, I'm going to give that extra $5, and that's pretty special.
What about your choice for vendors, for food providers, clothing, apparel? Was there any sort of criteria they had to meet, or something you were looking for? Yeah, certainly something that we were looking for. I mean, we were working in a space that was already very much skewed towards progressive and environmental thinking. So I think if you walk around, a lot of the, especially the yoga apparel companies, you know, are using organic cotton, are sourcing their blanks in ways that are sustainable and environmentally friendly. I think one thing that will become a pillar of Wanderlust, and that we're trying that will, in the future, is really to bring a stronger local farmers market scene as part of the event. One thing that we have done is we've worked with all of the restaurant properties on site here to get them to buy locally for the weekend. So the food that they're serving, not across every single property, but the properties that we were able to get some traction with, are actually buying locally for this weekend, and for hopefully we'll continue to do that. Some are already doing that. Punchak's, for one, does that quite a bit already. And some of them will be setting up stands, if they haven't already, actually showcasing the food that they're actually cooking inside, but showcasing what they did buy locally. I think going forward, I mean, I want this to be like a whole farmer's market. That's what the idea was initially, but you can create only so many pillars at a time. But I also see this as a tremendous opportunity to bring people like Michael Pollan or Alice Waters, both of whom I was in touch with during this process, and bring them on site and, you know, create, you know, to some degree, some kind of, you know, TED conference sort of atmosphere where people are giving lectures and giving talks about some of these issues. And we do have a little bit of that, like up at 3:30 up at Gold Coast, Jim Fetzer, of Fetzer Wines. Many years ago, he actually sold Fetzer, the brand, and I think he moved to Europe or had some sort of catharsis about biodynamics, and basically became a pioneer in biodynamic wines in the United States.
And I don't know a tremendous amount about biodynamics, but he takes it very, very seriously and has explained it to me on the phone in great depth. But he's actually giving a talk up there at 3:30 at Gold Coast, and that will accompany a wine tasting, which makes talks more palatable always. We should have wine. Yes, probably. But he basically pioneered that movement, which and all of his grapes are grown in an environment where there are a certain amount of animals on site providing the compost. He's rotating his crops. He's like making wine in a sustainable way. His brand is called Siago, and it's actually some of organic wine has sort of a mixed reputation. They are making like extraordinarily delicious and high-end wine. I urge you guys to, if you can go up the mountain, to stop and meet him and listen to what he has to say and try some of his wines. He also kind of blew open a whole world of biodynamic wines for me and introduced me to all these different brands, all these little boutique brands of biodynamics. So, I think there's a lot that on the environmental front that we can do. So.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
Don't worry, we're already